Welcome everyone to the second round of the Prague Masters 2026. We have Nodirbek Yakubboev coming to the board. He is the winner of Prague Challengers 2025 and gets a spot in the 2026 Masters tournament rated 2691. He's facing against the world champion Gukesh, who waves to his trainer uh, Gaevsky and enters into the playing hall, shakes hands with his opponent. Gukesh had a draw in round 1 and now is playing in round 2. Meanwhile, Yakubboev had got the better of Anton Guyaro. So Yakubboev on 1 out of 1 in good shape. The players are ready here and the game begins. Gukesh with the white pieces. Let's see what he begins with. He plays pawn to d4. And Yakubboev, well, he faced off against Gukesh at the World Blitz Championships and Gukesh got the better of him there. Let's see what happens here. Knight to f6 played. And Gukesh goes for pawn to c4. Even in Vaikanze, Gukesh did play one d4 quite a bit, but the thing is, he can now play pawn to e4, pawn to d4 with such regularity that it's very difficult to guess what he would be playing. And now we have knight to c3. Will we see the Nimzo Indian happening on the board? Because generally we see knight coming out to f3. Instead of that, knight c3 makes this a very interesting moment in the game. Yakubboev doesn't really change. He goes pawn to d5, pushes the pawn in the center. Queen's gambit declined. Gukesh takes the pawn. C takes d5. And we have e takes d5 taken. The bishop comes out to g5, pinning the knight on f6. And you have pawn to c6 played, just bolstering the center. Queen comes up to c2. Now this move stops bishop f5. So that's why queen on c2. And now h6, questioning the bishop on g5. And the bishop comes back to f4. Slightly lesser played. You know, you want to keep the pin on the knight with bishop h4. But bishop on f4 is a nice diagonal. Nodirbek instantly challenges the bishop. Gukesh takes it. Queen takes d6. And this is all preparation for Gukesh. You can see he's at 1 hour 33 minutes. He puts his pawn on e3. The trade of bishops, I feel, is slightly to white's edge because white has a better bishop than black, considering that all the black pawns are on the same color as the bishop. h3 played. A useful move, stopping bishop g4, knight g4 ideas. Also at some point you may want to long castle and go g4. He goes rook e8. The king is still in the center, and so playing g4 could be a bit risky here. So rook c1 played. And now interesting to see what Nodirbek does. He goes knight e4. He immediately challenges the knight on c3. Gukesh, meanwhile, still blitzing out his moves. Is he still in his preparation, or is he finally out of it? Well, he takes it immediately again. So that's a bit worrying for Nodirbek because he has like spent 21 minutes and Gukesh still in his prep. By the way, taking with the rook and the pawn, both seem fine. He takes with the pawn here. And Gukesh now, what does he do? Bishop c4 is an idea. Knight e2, knight g3, knight f4. He goes knight e2, knight to d7 and knight f4. And finally Gukesh starts to take a bit of the time on the clock. I think black's position overall is fine. But these structures are a bit tricky. You know, white has like this nice pawn structure. He has these pawns on the queen side that can move forward. Can become quite tricky. Queen c5 played by Gukesh, and now taking here would mean rook c5 and then later b4 b5. The minority attack could become dangerous. So queen to c5, A good move there by Gukesh. And Yakubboev avoids the queen trade. He goes queen to f6. And now bishop c4 seems like a fine move to develop your bishop on a very good diagonal. If the knight would take the bishop, it's okay. But Gukesh doesn't do that. He goes bishop e2. Well, in a sense, he's got a very decent position out of the opening. This is what you want as white. A small edge, time lead on the clock, bishop e6 played. And now maybe b3 to limit the knight on b6, but goes a3. And with this move, I'm not so sure. Knight to d5. Nice little move there by Yakubboev. Gukesh takes on e6, creating an imbalance, but at the same time, he's risking it a bit because the knight on d5 is an absolute monster. It sits in the center beautifully. The rook is now on e6. It can swing over if needed. Bishop g4, he attacks the rook. And rook goes to d6, staying on the third rank. And white castles. And now black would love to get the other rook into the game, but the a pawn was always hanging, so a6 played by Yakubboev here. One of the normal moves now is b4 with the idea of a4 and b5. We've been talking about the minority attack. I think Gukesh wants to go f3, so he goes rook a1. This is a very typical Gukesh move. He's, spicing things up. Rook e8 played by Yakubboev. Now f3 is not a good idea because the e3 pawn would become very weak. So he goes bishop d1. Rerouting the bishop to the other diagonal. And queen d8 brings his queen back. Well, I would be very careful here as white because black is swinging over the rook. The queen could enter in, the other rook could come in. All of a sudden, you have a huge attack brewing. He goes rook g6. And maybe now it's the time to play f4. Or maybe Gukesh can decide to take on d5. He goes king h1. But now it's time for the other rook to join in. Think about it. Rook e6. Yeah, he plays it. Rook g5. Maybe queen h4. Other rook to g6. Oh my goodness. Gukesh goes queen a7 so that if queen moves away, he can take the pawn. Also, there's queen b8 check and queen coming back, and boom! Sacrifices the rook. Wow! But Gukesh calmly takes it. He's like, okay, show me what you got. Check. And king h1 played. By the way, a very important thing to notice here was that now queen c8, a very cool move, attacking here, king h2, check. And the players are going to repeat because queen c8, there's just no one here to defend the h3 pawn. The white queen is too offside. Queen c8, and the players repeat and agree to a draw, like, to make it a threefold repetition. Queen c7 check. And there's no time for Gukesh to, bring his queen into the game. A draw is agreed, and 2 draws for Gukesh at the start of the Prague Masters 2026. Not at all an easy tournament. This is going to be for the world champion. But let's see how he fares while Yakubboev. Well, a great start for him after a win in round 1. He draws against Gukesh. He's on 1.5 out of 2 points. And Gukesh here, we'll see how he does in the next round. He will be facing off against some strong opponents. And after the game, there were a lot of fans waiting for Gukesh, which is always very nice to see. We leave you with those moments.
Thanks.
Can I take a photo, please? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, ChessBase super channel. Vacation. Live. Got it. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, this is wrong. Can we once again? Okay, thank you.
Mamy nadzieję, że
Opłacił.